Welcome to Redvee TV's Instant Fan Reaction, supported by A-Star Recruitment for the 2021 season, as we reflect on St Helens' 40-6 victory over the Leeds Rhinos at the Totally Wicked Stadium here this evening. It was a game that was won by half-time, Kev, and it was a game of two halves.
Yeah, I think it was won well before half-time, to be honest. And yeah, it was good, high-intensity first half, and then kind of a more managed queue on the rack than last week. But a queue on the rack, play at a certain level and never look in doubt. And you'd possibly go as far to say that, unfortunately, I think the game against Leeds, there was more peril in that game than there was tonight because of the numbers that Leeds are missing. I mean, I was surprised when I saw their squad, actually looked at it properly on Thursday. They were missing a hell of a lot of players, and it just shows with the squad numbers out there tonight that I don't think there was ever a proper match-up on the cards.
Was that an occasion where size mattered?
Yes. No, yeah, I do. You look, Alex Walmsley's taken away man of the match though tonight, and having a forward of his size, his presence. I mean, it's one of them that for a big man, he can move, can't he? And he punches holes in defences. So
was that Richard Agar's tactic in that game? To try and tire the big man out by allowing him to have a couple of 80-metre runs?
Possibly. No,
Empty the tank, lads, early.
I think when they're missing the likes of Helens, when you start going through it and they're missing the likes of Helens, a couple of the pack men, you've got to try and go toe-to-toe and earn the right to be able to play. And unfortunately, because they were missing so many, it just wasn't like a Saints Leeds game of old, was it? Because one team did have so many out, and unfortunately for Leeds, it was Leeds.
I think that was a comment that was made very early in proceedings. It didn't seem like a big game, and that sounds awful, but with Leeds having so many out, they must have only brought 150, 200 fans over. And considering that was a team that had won 4 out of the last 5, it was trying to secure 4th spot in the table, it just felt a little bit flat. Good on the club to try and boost the crowd tonight and donating the tickets to the NHS. A good crowd of 12,500, but there were still only a couple of hundred Leeds fans, and when you look at that attendance, I don't know. But on the pitch, I thought first half we were really, really good. I know John Wells was talking pre-game on Sky, apparently saying we're not ourselves, we're not very good, and we were going to get beat tonight. And the halves weren't good enough, and I thought Jack Wellsby and Lewis Dodd were good again.
Yeah, I think Jack Wellsby obviously gets his hands on the ball, or got his hands on the ball a little bit more, especially in that first half, than Lewis Dodd. And then Lewis Dodd obviously steps it up in the second half and starts dictating play a little bit more. Yeah, listen, we say some daft things on here, but I don't. Ours are calculated. They are.
Lewis Dodd in the first half, I thought he was actually quite quiet. The ball wasn't going through his hands as much, obviously, especially when bringing out of our half. Is that a tactic to only bring him into play when we're 20, 30 metres out? I'd like to see the ball go through his hands a little bit more, but if you're talking about that, we did try and get the ball moving about tonight, didn't we, and keep the ball alive, and we got a couple of tries off the back of it.
But you say that, and in the first half we absolutely obliterated Leeds. We made it game over. So he didn't need to get his hands on the ball more. He didn't need to, and you could see how much he was offering vocally and putting players into positions, saying you're taking this. Your scrum half ideally should be able to wear a dinner jacket, and that's what he's done tonight. I've no problem with that. I've no problem with him not necessarily getting his hands on the ball and starting to get his hands on the ball a little bit more when the game's gone a little bit bitty and he's turned round and kind of a couple of little good kicks through.
Is it a case of the tactic then, as you say, we were punching massive holes down the middle through Walmsley, through the other forwards? Was it a case of plan A's working?
Yeah.
Let's ram plan A home?
Yeah, it's possibly a little bit easier than expected. So we didn't have to start obviously slinging it too far out wide, and I say that and our first try scored is Regan Grace, where we have put it out wide, but you don't have to. And if it's taking care of itself, why does he have to start running plays with the ball in his hand? He can run plays by saying, right, you're taking this next running, you're taking this, I'm here if you need me. I'm 3 or 4 out, but he's not necessarily needed. Just going back to the John Wells thing, of John Wells saying that Leeds would win tonight. Listen, I think we did both predict closer games than that, but you look at that Leeds team sheet, I don't know where he's got that from. I genuinely don't know where he's got that victory from, because as soon as I actually saw the Leeds team tonight, an hour and a half before kick-off or whatever it was, I genuinely, especially with that first half as well, can look back on, there was never a different result than Saints absolutely ramming home a victory there.
I thought their tactics were strange, and from the opening minute, and it was as if the tone was set. They ran their opening set and turned it over on halfway, and it's like straight away you think we're on top already on the front foot. Richard Agar must have been absolutely tearing his hair out.
If he had any.
It was one in the forwards tonight, didn't it? Is it a slight concern? Obviously, Alex Walmsley's going to make up, I think, 260 plus tonight in terms of metres. Is it a concern how we drop off when he's off the field, or was that more of a case of because of the scoreline?
Little bit of yes, that it is a concern when him and Morgan Knowles go off and you start missing that intensity, especially Alex Walmsley taking so many defenders in and Morgan Knowles being the defensive kind of covering everything. I think Alex Walmsley actually said in an interview in the week. It is, but yet again, that's a more controlled queue on the rack. We've got the victory here. We shouldn't lose it from here. And I know we said that we shouldn't have lost it on Saturday against Catalan, but yeah.
Were you worried when Leeds got their consolation try?
No, and no. Well, I'm only worried about people who've replied to us and said, remember about last week when obviously it's a little bit of an ironic joke that we put out there. We were actually discussing it before the game that if Leeds scored early on, we were going to call it an early consolation prize. So don't take things too seriously.
Yeah, I think people need to see the tweets last week when I've said, Leeds scored a consolation try 30-18. Another consolation to make it 30-24, and another one to make it 30-30.
Yeah.
That was tongue-in-cheek in play. It's like, you know.
And that's it. You could have deleted them. You could have easily deleted them, but you leave them up because you know what? If we're going to give it, you've got to take it back as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I think that's... Yeah, there is a bit of a worry, and another worry that comes out of tonight, which I think may well have been your next question, is the number of players who go off with a knock. A more...
Don't need me then, Kev.
No. A more seemingly turned his ankle early. We've played Walmsley probably bigger minutes than we want to. We've played Roby probably bigger minutes than we want to. When Sione Matautia's wearing a protective boot after going over on his ankle and seeing the kind of replay of that, it doesn't look great for him. That could well be a season over job.
You'd hope it's precaution to put him straight in the boot.
Yeah. Especially with the walk round.
You'd hope if he has done something serious, you wouldn't stick him on the walk round.
But then you turn around and you think, well, Parzy's missing next week. Amour's got to play. I think, do you play Walmsley and risk him, or do you start going down there? Was it 2005 when we started losing all? We had a great team and we started losing.
I believe we're going to get signed on for next week. We've spoken about it before. We're more than available. A few weeks ago, Christian Wolf was looking at me and thinking he could replace Big Al. But now, I'm afraid to say, I'm more of a Regan Grace.
Yeah, as I say, don't take us too seriously here. More of a Regan Grace.
I'm wasting away.
No,
don't recognise us next season. We're going to be like, I don't know.
Listen, the squad for next... The squad for next... Squad for next week's going to be interesting because
you've got to play Dan Norman,
I think
Wingfield,
I think
Tom Nisbet, Nico Roselli. Because with it being the semi-finals 3 weeks off now, every team. Well, is there a worry that whoever will play in the semi-final will be playing every week and we'd have a couple of weeks off? But does it make much difference whether you have 2 weeks off or 3 weeks?
I don't think it does. I know some people will want us to carry on with the same team, carry on with the same intensity. I think you rest lads who haven't had a rest. So I'm looking at the likes of Jack Wellesby. Has he had a week off? I'm not sure he has. Alex Walmsley, give him time off.
If Alex Walmsley's named in that squad next week, do we drag him off before kick-off ourselves?
Well, it's whether he's named in the team, isn't it? He might not even get to the 21-man squad. Dan Norman comes in, as you say. You get Ben Davies in there. As you say, Nisbet, Roselli, Josh Eves gets a game. I know we all want James Roby to break the appearance record, but
let him kick off and walk off the pitch.
Is there much point in playing him against Salford in what is a dead rubber, because we are second now. Is there much point in playing him, or do you give it to Aaron Smith and Josh Eves and go on, lads?
Well, the question I'll ask you then is, playing Salford next week, is there any positives that can come out of that game for us if we play our normal side?
Well, yeah, there is, because you can keep your momentum, you can have a good win.
Well, as Rod Studd would say, there's no such thing as momentum in rugby league.
Rod Studd, it doesn't always talk sense, does he? He doesn't.
I'm clipping that for him.
You can do. You can do, because I don't always talk sense, but...
You do. That's why you're on here. For me, do the potential negatives outweigh the positives?
Yeah.
Especially given what we've seen tonight in terms of players coming off injured.
They can do, because as well, I think Morgan Knowles came in with a swinging arm over the top, which could end up getting him a week off. There could be the odd player who gets the week off here and there. Listen, there's a lot of negatives that could come out of it, where you start getting suspensions, you start getting injuries, you start picking up knocks. It's a tough balancing act. I think you're almost going to go hybrid with your squad, or that's what I would potentially do. You like some Mark Percival, who has had his injury problems. You probably turn around and say 2 weeks off now, Percy. Listen, do we get other players back? Do we get the likes of Johnny Lomax back? Because he said 4 weeks for him.
So there's the thing, if Lomax is coming back to fitness, potentially you put him in the team next week and give him half a game to test the leg out and see how he is, because you probably don't want to throw him back in for a semi or a grand final, because that's a massive risk. So yeah, he's potentially one you try out next week.
Yeah.
For me, anybody who's got a squad number who isn't a regular in the team is in the team next week.
Yeah. Well, that's it. You say that, we're already, like, you have a look at, say, Batchelor wears number 20 on his back. We're already down to the likes of, and that's no offence, because he's taking his chance and he's worthy of a shirt. But it's your likes of Joel Thompson, who it seems like we're managing him through the end of the season. He's got to play next week, because he's not played for a couple. If he's fit enough, he plays. It's almost, do you give Louis a game because he's missed a couple? Do you give him a good 30-40 minutes run out?
Does Christian Wolf go with a similar team to what went to Wakefield the week before the cup final? Because we all thought that was probably one of the weeks where we'd go with a reserve team, and he played pretty much not far off full strength there as well.
I think it'll be a hybrid team, as I say. I think it'll be a hybrid team. There'll be some young lads in there, some young lads getting some decent minutes. Ben Davies and Dan Norman have both played for Salford this year.
Do you reckon Richard Marshall will do us a favour and play like Catalans?
What, and beat us in Golden Point?
or set up like Warrington for us. Do us a favour, whoever will be playing in the semi. Obviously, second is now secure. The bye in the playoffs, the home game. Who do you expect to be playing here in a couple of weeks?
Probably Warrington. I think and it sounds terrible, this, because whatever I say now will end up getting beat by him, but they're the best of the bunch behind. You're going to say bad bunch yet?
The Wire fans have watched the last 13 and a half minutes waiting for themselves to be mentioned. They'll be in the comments.
Tempted. No, listen, they're the third best team for a reason in this league.
Because they're not as good as Saints and Catalan.
Yeah, but they're better than the rest. And that's it. You have a look at that Leeds. If Leeds are struggling with injuries like that for the rest of the season, you can't see them going too far into it. If they had a full strength team, it'd be
interestingly, if say Castleford snuck 6th or Hull KR, are either of them capable of going to Warrington and beating them?
Yes. Yeah, they are.
In which case you would probably end up playing Wigan or Leeds.
Yeah. Well, that's it.
And do they hold any fear based on what you've seen from them the last few weeks? Do Wigan hold more of a threat? Because I know we say Wigan get battered everywhere they go, but it's still a derby.
Yeah,
and Wigan and we've seen how Wigan can raise the game in the playoffs. I'd fear Wigan the most, genuinely, because of the big game experience, and they're more than capable of doing it when it matters, and that's come from years and years and years of watching them.
And you know what'll happen? Yeah, they'll click in attack. If they play us, they'll click an attack and it'll keep it tight, and it'll be down to a penalty goal or something like that that wins it. So I get that. I get why Wigan would hold quite a bit. But then, if you've got somebody like Hull KR, Castleford, nothing to lose, can throw it about. Let's not go back to Castleford in a semi-final in a playoff.
Going home depressed now, Kev.
Yeah, no. Right.
I think that's it, done, innit?
Yeah.
We did win tonight. Give us a
good.
smile.
No.
If you're listening to this on the Redvee podcast, which might be on some sort of podcast system, if I can actually work out how to do it, Kev is actually smiling. It's like what's
Looks like wind.
the thing? Yeah, there we go. Right. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let us know what you think in the comments. And we will catch you next week for the Redvee preview show ahead of Salford, probably on Wednesday night. Catch you soon.